just dun, 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 oh, it's so good. It's so amazing. The explosion that comes out at the start of the second song. After all of that kind of diminishment, after all of that decay that we had at the end of I Want Wind to Blow, it kind of feels like his prayers have been answered in some sense. The hurricane has come, but no, it's not a blessing. It's not some benevolent weather formation or anything like that. I'm pretty sure the loud noise that happens right at the start of the song is kind of an audio representation of suicide, of Phil taking some steps to end his own life. And then that lasts like maybe 30 seconds. It's fantastic. The drumming is so intense. The noise is so deliciously rich, with just that kind of lo-fi buzz. It's nearly intoxicating just to hear. I think it really suggests some of his finest work that came on the album after this, which is called Mount Erie. We'll probably talk about that album at some length at some point. Anyways, but all of that's just like the first 30 seconds. It just sort of marks this transitional point, where this kind of unspeakable thing happens. And then everything drops back and fades away, and it's an even simpler, more minimalistic, kind of acoustic guitar based part than in the previous song. It feels like, again, all the wind has just kind of stopped, the clacking shutters shut up. And the lyrics here are so powerful and so haunting that I don't even know if I'm going to be able to really get through them. Um, but I find this line, this is kind of the famous line that people think of with this song. It's very mysterious to me. I'm not going to click on the explanation. I remember I looked at it before and I didn't really like it. But to me, I think the mysteriousness again is sort of just kind of touching on this idea of an unspeakable act has just occurred. He's done something that maybe he regrets, or maybe not that he regrets, but he can't speak of it. Like he can't sing about his own suicide. It's just sort of impossible. So instead, he uses this probably very kind of personally rooted metaphor of I took my shirt off in the yard. No one saw that the skin on my shoulders was golden. The, the phrasing of these lines, this is extremely elongated. This one is just a long line. And then it kind of feels like it stumbles and falls. Now it's not. My shirt's back on. I forgot my songs. The glow is gone. All of those lines just kind of happen back to back to back to back, in this relentless despair. And then this is one of the first like really elongated lines on this song that usually bridge from kind of one verse to another. Um, I can't replicate it. The way he sings on this track just rips my heart to shreds. There's so much emotion pouring out of it. Um, I could not get through September without a battle. I faced death. I went in with my arms swinging. This to me feels like a hanging image. Um, Kind of the duality of fighting, but then also a body that is hung, swings. Um, and then I heard my own breath, this being a sign that for whatever reason the asphyxiation has failed. I had to face that I'm still living. I'm still flesh. I hold on to awful feelings. I'm not dead. And this again kind of has the same structure where these lines are sort of elongated. That there's no end. My face is red. And then these lines, my blood flows harshly, my heart beats loudly. Again, just the elongation he gives to them. Every syllable feeling like it's being torn to shreds. his voice clipping into the range of microphone malfunction again. This is very like kind of lo-fi energy, just feeling so authentic and raw. There's no end. Oh, it's brutal. It's like kind of this song I think of him failing to commit suicide, of him not being able to go through with it in the end, or some sort of malfunction or something. Um, and all of it takes place on the other side of that, of looking back and thinking, well, that's it. Like, all right, like all of that happened. It seems so dramatic at the time. It's maybe a little embarrassing now, but after all that, I'm still here. Like, okay. And then the rest of the album is just kind of about that feeling. IMO. That's kind of what he's talking about. Yeah, it's rough. It's very, very rough. It's one of the most heart-wrenching songs I've ever heard. It's almost unspeakable, the kind of feeling that it inspires in you. And yet, this I find quite interesting. This is a quote from an interview where he talks about the track. It was more dramatic back then. I faced death as kind of a ridiculous line, considering I was talking about having my feelings hurt. The idea with the song is sometimes it's annoying to have to admit to yourself that you're still alive when you'd rather curl up in a ball and be sad and dark. Being annoyed at your heart for still beating. Not that I was actually suicidal or anything. I totally wasn't. Just a regular old relationship not working out. No big whoop. And I've read other interviews where he said kind of similar things. Some in the aftermath of his wife's passing, and after A Crow Looked at Me came out, and things like that, where he's kind of talking from that perspective, and he's saying, okay, now I actually know loss. Now I actually know what death is like. And it does seem kind of absurd to me to go back and see myself singing like this, and writing lyrics like this, when, I just broke up with my girlfriend and that's it. But I don't think it really matters. I'm gonna evoke the good old Dota theory here, the death of the author, so to speak. That even if he wasn't actually suicidal when he wrote this track, which I almost find hard to believe, it carries that energy. It still is a song about that in a very real way. Um, like I think here he admits just as much, even if he's trying to say it didn't come from that place. He's still saying like that's what it is. And there's something actually kind of amazing about that. There's something pretty awe-inspiring, that really, no matter what he was feeling, clearly he lived through this. He had these feelings. He had that big noise, whatever that was, and he still recorded this, still wrote this, still created this. Um, that these things which are almost by definition inexpressible, these souvenirs from emotional territory that cannot be mapped, that has no return, that you can make it happen creatively, that you can go to these places without losing yourself there. That's pretty amazing. That's I don't know, it's inspirational. It undoes to some extent the miserable feeling that the song has trapped you in. But I suppose, it's like in the end, I had to face that I'm still living. But he did it. He had to do it, and he did it. The alternative is that he's not here anymore. So yeah, I don't know. It's a good song, man. It's really, really impressive how good it is. I think it's one of the most brilliantly constructed and structured songs. Just the contrast between the really noisy parts, the really beautifully melodic parts, the way it trails off again at the end, sort of like the previous song, that he's just sort of back to the state of calm and gray and sterileness. Um, just going onward like that. I don't know. That's good. All right, depressing music week. Just getting warmed up.